What's up guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kyle. If you don't know who I am just an Aussie bloke who loves making videos about small cars. Alright, so hopefully you guys watched my last video, which was me taking the motor out of my 96 NA MX-5, and today we're going to be doing something way more exciting, which is actually disassembling the motor. So today I'm going to try and give you a really in-depth video on how to disassemble the motor. So hopefully it'll be a really good video guys. Make sure you stick around, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we're going to start disassembling this BP motor behind me. First step though, it has like 20 years worth of crud on it, so I'm going to give it a good old degrease, get it a bit cleaner before I start ripping into it, because I want everything to be really clean and be able to see everything before it all comes apart. So let's get it. Welcome to my world. The first thing I'm going to do is just chuck these two pieces of cardboard together, tape a line down the center, and maybe tape it to the ground just so I don't get all this crud and grime all over my carport floor. Alright, so now I've got the motor with a big piece of cardboard underneath it, so that means when I clean it down, I'm not going to stain my carport and the concrete under it. Something really important to think about when you're going to clean crud off 20-year-old motors, 26-year-old motors. Alright, so to clean the motor down, all I'm going to be using is degreaser and some brake cleaner, and I'm really lucky and I had to throw out a bunch of towels last month, so I've got a bunch of towels to just clean the motor up. So it's already dripping coolant on the cardboard, so I'm going to get started. Alright, so we're going to start the disassembly process. So I'm pretty much going to take off everything that's not really the block, because I can individually clean everything that's not, you know, pretty much the block itself. So, alright, so the first thing we're going to take off is the extractors. So the extractors are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts. Take those 9 bolts off and you're right, and that will just slip off. So let's do that now. Alright, so we got the extractors off. I did try and prevent this happening, but I did have one head stud actually back out with the nut still attached. That's okay though, you can throw these back in, put another nut on and tighten it. So nothing really to worry about, just kind of annoying that it did come out. Alright, the next thing we're going to take off is both engine mounts. The engine mounts are very simple to take off. Take that cap off, which protects them. We're taking 1, 2, and 3 bolts off, and that'll come off. They are 14mm bolts. Same with the extractor bolts, they are 14mm as well. Alright, the next thing we're taking out is the sump dipstick. All that is 1 bolt there. Take that out, it'll free this bracket, and then there's just an O-ring in there that just pulls out. So, you just thread that back on, like that. Make sure that you don't forget. So this side of the motor is looking pretty good. I'm pretty sure I have everything off besides the lifting point. I'm sure that's just a 14. Yep, take that off now. Make sure that you're undoing the bolts first with a big ratchet or a pry bar before you use any like electric ratchet or something, because if the electric ratchet isn't strong enough, then it will break the electric ratchet, and that's not what you want. And I learned that the hard way, so learn from my mistakes. Now that the left side of the motor is done, we're gonna head over to the right side, start taking the intake, the injector rail off, taking all that off. Right, the next thing we're gonna take out is the intake and the injector rail. So to take the intake off, there are 14mm bolts, just holding it on, just like the extractors. You can see them all, 1, 2, 3, see them all up under there. So we're gonna undo those, and we're also gonna undo these 12 mils that are holding in the injector rail. So all the bolts on the injector rail and holding the intake on are 12mm. Alright, so I've just gotten the intake off. That gasket, oh, that gasket is like paper mache glued to the block. I think the next thing we'll take off will be the alternator. So right now the alternator is just held on by one 14mm there and this bolt down there. And then I think it should just come off. One alternator. So I'm gonna hopefully be able to just spin it off with my gloves. I should be able to. There we go. And I'm just gonna spin it off. There shouldn't be too much oil that comes out, but just to save yourself making a big mess, make sure you do get a tray. So now we have this big ass bolt right here. I actually don't know what size that is. Alright, so this is a deep 29mm nut on the end of this oil cooler thread. So at the moment I don't have one of those. So I'm literally just going to take the hoses off, take a photo so I know that where they go. But I'm just going to leave it on there because it really doesn't, it's not hurting anything or whatnot. I can still clean everything and take off everything else. I can just leave that on there. So the next thing we're going to take off is the thermostat, the water pump pulley, and the crank pulley. So really easy to take the thermostat off and the neck, two bolts, two 12mm bolts. The water pump is three 10mm bolts, and the pump is and the crank is also 4 10mm bolts, and that'll just wobble off. It does have a little dowel here, so you can't really screw up putting the crank back on. But make sure you're doing all of this stuff with a really strong impact gun. If you don't have an impact gun, wrap your belt around the pulley and hold it really tight while you get someone else to undo them. Alright, so the next thing we're going to take off is the rocker cover. So the rocker cover is just 11 10mm bolts. Make sure you crack them off in a star pattern, just like that. Work your way from outside in, crack them, take them all off. The rocker cover will just lift off. There we go. Off that comes, which exposes the cams, the lifters, and the head studs. We're going to take all of these front covers off, which I think that one should almost just, yep. Sweet, that wasn't even bolted down. I'm going to take that front cover off, which is just a 10mm there, a 10mm there. Looks like it. That comes off. 10mm there, that comes off. Expose the timing belt and all those parts. Take that apart, take the head off. Bob's your uncle. Oh, look at that. That is literally demolished. And there. Whoa. Oh my goodness. Alrighty. So now I've exposed the timing gear. This is the tensioner bearing. This is the idler bearing. There's the tensioner spring. Alrighty, so we've gotten to the stage where I have to de-tension the timing belt, take the timing belt off. I gotta make sure the cams are held in position. I'm gonna show you how to do that as well, but I've gotten to a point where I've kind of got it all bare enough to kind of clean it all up so I don't have to clean it really individually. So I think I'm gonna roll it out onto some cardboard again and just degrease the absolute crap out of it and make it look a bit better. Alrighty, so now I'm going to crack all the head bolts off. Now you have to do this in a particular sequence, and it is pretty much inner to outer. And so I'm going to crack them off, get them out, and then I'm going to lock the cams in place to keep the motor timed. Then I'm going to slip the belt off so all the tension is off, and the head will come off. We'll need a 12mm double hex socket to get the head bolts out, and you really want to pay attention to the sequence that these come out. The sequence is as followed. This is the intake side, this is the exhaust side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, and we have to crack them off in quarter turns. So we have to do a quarter at a time and then a quarter at a time until they're loose enough that you can take them all out by hand. These are going to be very tight. So quarter of a turn. Quarter of a turn. This is 5. This is 7. 10. Now we're going to go around, do another quarter turn, 2, 10. Okay, now they should all be loose enough that we can just pull them out with an extension and a socket. So now we'll just pull them out and just chuck them up somewhere safe. Now I am fairly confident these are torque to yield bolts. Now torque to yield bolts mean that once they are torqued to spec and they are done up from factory, you cannot reuse them because they stretch with inside the block. So you do have to replace your head bolts. And personally, I would just go for the ARP head studs because they are amazing and they are often cheaper than factory head bolts. Alrighty, so all of our head studs are off. Now I'm going to chuck the crescent wrenches on there, lock it in place, take all the timing tensions off, take the belt off, and I'll be able to lift the head up and evaluate the condition that our pistons are in. Head studs are out. We are currently at top dead center. Now I'm going to detension the front of the timing belt, take the timing belt off, and then we're going to lift the head up and have a look at our pistons. So first thing we're going to do is take the tensioner off, take the idler off, and take the spring off. Wow, they're actually really tight. There we go. There we go. That detensions the spring. And then we can pull that off. Take the front part off. Timing belt comes off. And off we come. Looks all right. There we go. Oh, she was leaking a bit. Alrighty, so there we go, guys. That's my head. There's nothing missing from the pistons. They're all well and good, really. Like, there's no chunks missing. Nothing bad really happened. Awesome. Best case scenario, really. Alrighty, guys. Well, that is going to end today's episode of the NA8 boosted series. But in the next episode, we'll take the sump off. We'll have a look at the rods, the bearings. Thanks so much for watching this, guys. I hope any of this did help you. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, guys. Tune in for the next one. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode of the boosted NA series. Catch you out, guys.